So today we're going to take a look at drawing vectors. So we looked at some yesterday, but we're going to take a look at this again today to just make sure we're good on it. Let's say you had vectors 3, 2, and you were adding, whoops, that's not an adding side, adding vectors 1, 4. We know that this equals 3 plus 1 is 4, 6. But what does this look like as a picture? So let's see. Let's say we were to start maybe here. So 3, 2. We know this vector, we go over 3 and up 2. So here's that first vector. We're adding 1, 4. So we're adding, we go over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our other vector. So what we're looking at is what do we get? What's the vector when we add these? Well, from tip to tail, we go from there to there, and technically this vector 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how we go over 4 up 6. Now the second thing that we're going to take a look at is, let's say you have parallelogram. There's only one R in parallelogram. And we have parallelogram PQRS. And PQ equals vector A, and QR equals vector B. So in terms of this parallelogram, we have P, Q, R, and S. So our vector is traveling this direction, and we know that this is vector A and this is vector B. So let's say we needed to write it in terms of vectors Q to P. Well, if P to Q going that way is A, this would be the opposite of A. If we were to write R to Q would be the opposite of B. If we had S to R, oops, here's S. S to R is going against that direction. It's the same length as A, but the opposite direction, so it's the opposite of A. And then let's say we were to have S to P. Well, S to P is the same length as B, but going the opposite direction, so it's the opposite of B. Now, I'm going to hand you guys one that you will be placing in your notes. Okay, so let's see. Right here, we have this triangle. A, B, and C are the midpoints, and OX equals X, and OY to Y equals Y. Now, I don't like this because this X is right next to here, because really this whole thing is X. So I'm going to say, well, it's the midpoint, so that's half X and half X. And same thing down here, this whole thing is Y. So this would be half Y and half Y. I just get confused sometimes because that Y looks like it's the entire length. So if we were to find a couple things, let's say we were to find, how would we write vector O to A? Well, O to A, it's half of that, which we have, so we can just say it's half of vector X. Now let's say we were to have O to B. Well, O to B, we already wrote that. That's half of vector Y. So those were pretty easy. So let's take a look at a couple that are a little trickier. Let's say we want to find x to y. So we're trying to find how do we get from here x to y. And we don't know any of those lengths, so we have to use the ones we know. So to get from x to y, we start at x, and we'd have to travel these paths because we can't go straight there because we don't know that distance yet. So we'd have to go x to O plus O to y. Well, x to O, that whole thing is x, but we're going in the opposite direction. So it's the opposite of x. And then we're going this way, and that we know is vector y. So this whole thing, to get from x to y, so we could label this now. So x to y, this whole thing, and we're going from x to y, traveling that direction, is the opposite of x plus y. So now let's take a look at how do we get from O to C. Well, O to C is half the distance, or we want to go from O to C, excuse me. So that would be O to C. So that would be, we'd have to go O to X plus X to C. So O to X, we know that that is X, plus half that distance, so half of negative X plus Y. So this would be X minus half X plus half Y. So we'd have half X plus half Y. Or some of you were saying, well, O to C, couldn't we go O to Y plus Y to C? And we could definitely do that. O to Y is Y plus, but we're going against, we know X to Y. So it's, so if we were to go Y to X, it's going to be half, but it's the opposite of this, so that would be X minus Y, because we're going the opposite direction. So this would be Y plus half X minus half Y. And simplify, we get the same, oops, that should be an X. So we have half X plus half Y. So the last one we're going to take a look at, let's say we need to go, we want to go from C to O. Well, C to O, we could go C to Y plus Y to O. So C to Y would be half going in that direction, so that's negative X plus Y. Y to O would be negative Y. So negative half X minus half Y minus Y. So minus half X minus 1.5Y.